my starting point here for this was like projects. I took the title very literally. And I was like, stories that we can't let go of.
Mhm.
Part 1, Writer's Block. I think it's fair to say that it's not an uncommon thing to struggle when it comes to finishing big projects. Feel free to insert any jokes about George R. R. Martin that you feel are appropriate. What we're talking about could refer to any personal creative project, making music, a video game, a fan film, a cookbook. For myself, I think of the many writing projects I've started and never finished. So, what separates a story that must be told, that drives the author to see it through and bring it into the world, from a story or project that simply loiters around like a college student in a coffee shop, quietly there, seemingly making no progress, until one day you realize they're gone and you hadn't noticed? I think it's fair to say that I might just be describing writer's block. I won't say you're wrong, though I think it's a specific brand of writer's block that we're talking about. George R. R. Martin was never a fast writer, but he didn't slow to a crawl through molasses level until he had the pressure of HBO's TV adaptation breathing down his neck. Not to mention the deflating realization that his ending might actually be bad. That loss of confidence will take the wind out of anyone's sails. I'm not George R. R. Martin, but maybe I understand his writer's block. He and I fall into what I like to call Type 2 writer's block. What is Type 2 and Type 1, you ask? Type 1 describes writers who struggle to get started. They stare at a paper and can't think of an idea they like. Nothing seems interesting or good. And even if it did, where on earth would the story start? Type 2 describes writers like me who can start enthusiastically. Only once the story starts to congeal do things change. There is a moment when the writer thinks to themselves, "Oh, this might actually be good." And from that moment on, progress slows to a crawl. Is this next sentence still good? The writer asks themselves. The people who move past this point, who become real authors, are able to push past the precious notion of the perfect first draft, of immaculate inspiration, and realize that the work of writing means letting go. Margaret Atwood said, "If I waited for perfection, I would never write a word." Peter Tchaikovsky was maybe a bit harsher when he said, "Inspiration is a guest that does not willingly visit the lazy." Russians don't beat around the bush. Of course, external pressure can do wonders to make someone finish their work. I have a folder on my computer with all my fiction writing on it. During college, I managed to finish several short stories of varying degrees of quality because I had grades and due dates to motivate me. In the years since then, I've had a much harder time. As an example, when I was student teaching, I had students write short stories, and we had done a lesson on how to use stories we already knew as inspiration, but to make it our own. I wrote the start of a story using a British country house as a setting, with inspiration taken from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Alice in Wonderland, and the Beatrix Potter books. I only wrote the first half of the story because of time constraints, but I always wanted to finish it. Every few years, I'd pull the draft up on my computer and tinker with a few lines before putting it away again. I can't quite let it go, but I can't find the inspiration to get it going. Tchaikovsky would call me lazy, and he may be right. Perhaps the problem is that I'm trying to just finish it for myself. Part 2, The Power of Community. This pattern has recurred several times. Projects I've started for myself in a moment of enthusiastic inspiration, falling by the wayside as soon as the weight of my own expectation is put on them. Why have I been so unsuccessful, I asked myself. I wondered if there was a better approach beside just brute force willpower. I recalled that a friend of mine, David, is nearly done with a 6-year creative project. David has been working on a fan project to re-edit Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, to create a totally new and improved story. As a Star Wars fan, I would have been curious anyway, but thinking how so many projects don't see the finish line, I wondered what has kept him working steadily on it all this time. I asked him about it. You can set the stage for us. What is your project and when did it start?
My project is a fan edit of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I started it actually during COVID lockdowns back in 2020. The original film came out in theaters in December 2019, and I remember watching it in the theater opening night and just feeling crushed by how much I didn't like the story. Especially as someone who really liked the previous film, a lot of Episode 9 was about retconning that and undoing it. Like I said, as someone who really liked that story, it felt almost like a personal affront. My goal with this project is to try and make the entire Star Wars sequel trilogy more cohesive and end on a note that actually ties everything together rather than ripping it apart.
Why do you think you can't let this one go?
You know, it's funny you should ask that, because when I started the project, my original idea was, let's just trim out the stuff that I didn't like, and we'll see what we're left with. And what we were left with was about nothing. You know, I still had some ideas, but overall the project just felt like kind of insurmountable. Like, how can I build a good story out of nothing good? And so I did kind of put it aside and just kind of like resign myself to like not enjoying the end of Star Wars. I think it was around fall 2020 when I found another fan edit project that was going on for the same film. There's a website called originaltrilogy.com, which is all about fan edits, largely geared for Star Wars fan edits. And the person who was working on this Episode 9 project had also done fan edits of the other films, like all the other 8 films in the Star Wars saga. So I had already watched some of his stuff, and like, he's really good. A lot of people were contributing to that Episode 9 project, and I saw what they were working on, and I was really impressed with just how much they were accomplishing, and not just like cutting stuff out, but building stuff up, adding new material. And so I was like, wow, this is really incredible. I want to, join the effort and kind of pitch in and help out however I can. I just started like doing little mock-ups and little clips and just little ideas. And eventually, like the guy in charge of the project noticed some of the stuff I was doing, and he was like, wow, this is really good. Here, we can do this, and like, do you have any other ideas? And so started working on that project. That was also kind of cool and encouraging to me, and like kind of helped me to say like, yeah, maybe I could do something of my own, because like this guy who was really established and talented said, hey, you have really good ideas and like you're doing a really good job of editing. And, that was a very collaborative thing, and I was just, one little cog in that machine. And so there were a bunch of ideas I had that were like, hey, how about this? And people were like, no, we don't like that. And I was like, no, I still think this would work. And eventually got to a point where I felt I had enough of my own ideas that I still liked, where I thought it could still function as its own film and as a different enough project than the one we were all working on together.
Part 3. Working the problem. was going to be impossible because you couldn't go out there and shoot a new scene with, the actors.
A lot of my changes are script changes, I needed to build new lines of dialogue. So I spent months just trying to like build new dialogue, just to like see theoretically, is this going to be possible? For example, there's a line where Kylo Ren says, "I can sense the darkness in you." That's a brand new line that wasn't in the film. And so that's basically spliced dialogue from maybe 4 different sources. So like "I can" is one line, and then "sense" is another one, and then the darkness is another part, and then "in you" is another one. And so you find all those sources and you mix them together, and if it sounds believable and it sounds realistic, then the line works and you can use it.
Was it very convenient for this that Sony's characters in Star Wars wear masks?
Very convenient. I used DaVinci Resolve. I taught myself color grading for this project. Yeah, I taught myself a lot of new skills. I was able to do some basic rotoscoping, a lot of sound mixing. Basically, if I encountered a problem, it was either try and find someone else who could help me out, and that did happen sometimes with some visual effects shots, but most of it was just trying to figure out how to do it on my own.
Part 4. Audience Expectations.
Star Wars is this great big epic, right? It's like I have other projects that I have abandoned too, but those are kind of projects that just feel like they're for me. Whereas Star Wars has touched so many people, it kind of feels like, I don't know, I want to be able to salvage this franchise, not just for me, but for other people who might have felt similarly as I did about Episode 9. The whole process was very collaborative. And even though I've spent the last 4 years largely just working by myself, it is still, like I said, a big foundation of the work that the community did and everything that we came together to achieve. On this fan editing forum, I posted about my project back in 2022. And that was kind of my own way of motivating myself that, like, okay, now other people are looking out for this, and I kind of have an obligation now to fulfill it. So, whereas these other personal projects that I've done, I don't tell anyone about them, and then there's no obligation to finish. Now, people are going to be disappointed if I don't finish it. Maybe they'll be disappointed if I do finish it. I hope not.
I think the supportive and collaborative nature of the community was really important for this project to keep moving, but also the motivation of a waiting audience. It's a project of passion, sure, but knowing that an authentic audience is expecting something is really important. Perhaps I need a writing community to motivate me to finish something again. Maybe inspire me to be less lazy. Part 5. finishing the project. What is the thing you're most proud of?
Honestly, that I was able to accomplish it. I'm most proud of the fact that I learned new things.